Best practices for senior housing. So now that Greg and Jason have laid out that there is indeed a demand for affordable senior housing in Eastwick and the broader area, Josh and I are going to discuss strategies for Eastwick if they choose to pursue senior housing and/or services. So, senior housing and service provision. These strategies can be combined, but on the spectrum of choices, Eastwick can one, build more affordable senior housing in the development sites shown earlier in the presentation or on other available sites, or two, they can also take steps to invest in senior services that promote residential stability and well-being. I will be discussing the first of these strategies, how to approach this from a housing perspective. So there are three main trends to approaching senior housing. The first is co-locating, which is when a housing provider builds on already existing services and locates next to a health center or medically licensed facility that can coordinate and provide services. One example is the New Cortland Allegheny and Life Center in North Philadelphia, which co-locates with the Life Center, a community center that provides healthcare and supportive services to seniors. The second approach is full integration, which is a scenario where housing providers partner directly with a health system. For this example, in Portland, a nonprofit developer partnered with the hospital system. And lastly, the third approach is what we think about as regular affordable senior housing, which is not necessarily attached to specific service providers, though it is tailored and adapted for an older residential population. So funding for senior housing can be thought about along four broad categories, which are often used in conjunction with each other. The first is funding for acquisition and development, which includes low-income housing tax credits. For example, an independent living facility falls under the residential category that uses tax credits. So the second category is funding ongoing services, which includes money from the Housing Trust Fund, both the National Trust Fund and the Philadelphia Housing Trust Fund. And another program called Section 202, which is a national program that specifically helps private nonprofit sponsors finance the operating costs for senior housing. The third is funding for home repairs and adaptation. So the Senior Housing Assistance Repair Program, or SHARP, provides free minor home repairs and modifications, such as installing hand railings or home repairs like replacing a leaky faucet. And they do this for low-income individuals over 60 years old. And the last way we can think about funding is for senior residents to have some of their rental costs subsidized. So under this idea of funding is the voucher program, which isn't specifically for seniors, but it's administered by the Philadelphia Housing Authority and also nationally. There's also a national voucher program. And then also there's the project-based Section 8 program, which attaches a subsidy to specific housing units. To understand the scope of senior housing, we looked at examples or case studies of senior affordable developments in the Philly area. And in this presentation, I'm just going to briefly touch on two of them. In this first case study, which is located in Northeast Philly, we have the New Cortland Allegheny / Life Center, which is a development that serves senior residents and specifically promotes equity by preferencing people who are already participating in the Life Center. So the approach was co-locating or developing next to the Life Center, which provides healthcare and supportive services to seniors that prefer to remain in their own home. This development also has operational funding through PHA, which has committed to more than $3 million a year. And it also has other funding sources, including low-income housing tax credits. The second development is in South Philly on a site that was previously vacant. So Cantrell Place serves low-income residents making as low as 20% of the neighborhood's average income. It is managed by Presby's Inspired Life, a nonprofit and senior housing provider, and there are 61 units total in this development that were awarded to seniors on a first-come, first-served basis. This complex is pretty exciting because it was created to ensure that seniors aren't pushed out of their communities and it gained funding through low-income housing tax credits and a $1 million redevelopment assistance capital program grant. There is also a partnership between Cantrell Place and a local pharmacy to deliver medication to residents, along with easy access to public transportation and commercial districts. This brings us to Josh's section where he will expand further on best practices for senior services and aging in place.